Hey everyone, this is Dr. Nathan Flores. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about chronic fatigue. This is something that so many different people deal with, and I really wanted to help people to understand that not only are there some tried and true methods of addressing and dealing with chronic fatigue, but there's also some new up and coming research and some different ways to address this. So first and foremost, let's talk about where does chronic fatigue start or kind of come into play. There's a lot of different things that can initiate this, whether it's someone dealing with a bout of depression after dealing with loss, adjustment, or some kind of thing that's changing in their environment. Usually this is when people have lost a connection or something that they really care about and no longer have. This is a time when people usually slow down, and that can sometimes lead into this fatigue-like state. This can be helpful in the short term, but when people are in this for a prolonged period of time, it can be quite distressing and uncomfortable. And so one of the main things that we can do to help people to pull themselves out of this is learning how to be more in tune with our body, to be aware of what thoughts that we have that are perpetuating this cycle of focusing on things that are bringing up sadness. And lastly is that emotional response. So when we have all three of those together, we have a pretty good understanding of what's going on, what might be triggering this depression, what might be making it more difficult and challenging for us to work through different daily tasks. And it could be the normal things that we do. I'm talking about waking up and brushing our teeth or just making our bed. Really simple things that most people can do without thinking about it. But this kind of fatigue can be much more debilitating. Now, this is something that's more going on our mental health side. Let's focus on some other things too. Whether you've experienced something medically going on. So there's different medical diagnoses or traumas or things that we might experience. A great example of something that's going on that's pretty significant for people right now is long COVID and other medical conditions that people get. I specifically work with a lot of people with traumatic brain injuries, strokes, and long COVID. And so this is where I see so many people getting caught up in this aspect of where things are just more taxing than they used to be. It takes so much more energy. And there are things that we can do that add more energy, and there's things that can detract from that. So some people talk about a spoon theory where like you have so many spoons on a given day and every task takes up those spoons. And when we're dealing with a condition that's decreasing the number of spoons we have, that's making it more likely for us to deal with chronic fatigue. This is not just something that happens on one specific day when you're feeling like you don't have any energy to do something. This is really this perpetual pattern that people are getting caught up in, where they feel like they can't escape it and it's much more challenging. And this is where it's really important to have a professional to come alongside of you, because you don't have to go through this journey alone. And there's other support groups too. So if you can't find a professional, just find others who are going to be joining you in your own health journey as you're recovering from this chronic condition of fatigue. One of the things that I've recently been diving more into in research is where this energy changes are happening in our body. One theory is basically that our nervous system is one factor that's in play in this. And if we're in a state that's more overactive, it could be taking up more energy and we're burning that and we're having less energy to handle different things on a day-to-day. This is important to learn how to take our nervous system and learn how to use it. So if we're in a state of fight or flight, we're burning more energy, or a state when we're more depressed, when we're also kind of burning energy too, we can find ways to de-escalate that and reduce that and work down to a point where we're able to get into this rest, digest, and restorative mode. A great theory on this is the polyvagal theory. I'll probably do another long explanation of this in the near future. With all this information here, there's certain things we can do that get us to that restorative state. This is going to help us with our sleep, which is a major area of chronic fatigue, where if somebody is not getting a restorative aspect of their sleep, it's going to just add fuel to the fire. It makes the chronic fatigue much worse. So that's one thing that we can definitely work on with people, is helping them to recover their sleep and get that restorative sleep. So it's not just that number of hours of sleep, it's also that quality of sleep, like getting into REM and deep sleep. These are things where your body is restoring and gaining energy. The other side of that is we constantly use energy all the time, whether we're sitting around thinking about things or actually physically doing things. And that happens on a cellular level, microscopic, smaller than I can even show on this screen. In each of our cells is mitochondria. This is something that helps us to produce energy and create ATP, and that gets directed to our body to do certain tasks, whether it's to flex muscles or to release them. It's a common thing that we all have. The catch-22 is, in order to make more mitochondria, to get more energy, we have to use it. And if you're already dealing with chronic fatigue, this could be one of the most frustrating things to hear. Great, so you're telling me I have to do more in order to get more energy. And that's partially true. That's one way we can go about this. But you can also make sure that you're fueling your body correctly with your nutrition, and there's different supplements that may be a great support to you. So on the supplement side, if you're wanting to, you can get connected with a doctor who can walk through and do some different lab work with you to see where you're at. There's some things that can be incredibly helpful that are being researched right now. One of the new and upcoming things is NAD Plus. This is something that your body naturally produces in your mitochondria, and this supplement can be a great effect where people experience increases in energy in as short as 2 or 3 days after taking this supplement. There's different ways that you can take it through subcutaneous injection. You can also do a nasal spray, or some people actually have it as an additive that they add into their drinks or other things like that. Regardless of how you take it, it can be a pretty effective way to kind of increase that energy as you're doing things to help your body heal and hopefully produce more energy as well. The last thing that I'll share about here is something that isn't always pleasant, that's related to our diet, but more on the lack of eating things, and this is fasting. Fasting is one other way that we can help our body to get back into cleansing out cells that are not working as effectively. So when we fast, whether it's the intermittent fasting, so for a set time during the day, they're not eating, and then during that set time, they're eating as many meals that kind of add up to those calories that they're shooting for. That's a great way to have a routine of fasting. But for some people, it's doing a water fast for a couple of days. Make sure you talk with your medical provider if you're doing this, because you don't want your electrolytes to get too low or other things like that. We don't want you to end up in the hospital. But there are ways when you're doing this fasting, it triggers 2 different responses that are fantastic. The first is it puts our body in ketosis. And this is where we're burning fat rather than other forms of energy in our body. And so we'll be using up those fat reserves, and if there's any toxins or other things that are tied in with that, it'll use that up and kind of cleanse that out as well. The more important one is autophagy. Now, you've probably not heard about this, but it's really this process where your body is looking for and identifying which specific cells are not working effectively. And so if there's anything that's damaged, like for example, maybe your mitochondria is damaged after getting COVID or some kind of other illness, this identifies where things are not working well and gets rid of that for fuel, while also giving your body a chance to make new ones. And this can be an incredibly restorative process, especially if you're doing that alongside of a medical professional in your journey. This is just a few things about chronic fatigue that I've been thinking about and talking about with different clients and patients I work with. I can't wait to share more with you as more research comes out, but this is a quick and dirty summary of the different things related to chronic fatigue. I hope you had a great day, and please share with those you care about. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist, and I share regular mental health tips.